Mr. Gill's people did not long worship in Crosby's schoolroom, but as the other friends were moving out and erecting another meeting house in Unicorn Yard, they came back to the old building in Goat Yard and found themselves very much at home. Dr. Gill's pastorate extended over no less a period than 51 years, reaching from 1720 to 1771, and he proved himself to be a true master in Israel. His entire ministry was crowned with more than ordinary success, and he was by far the greatest scholar the church had yet chosen. But he cannot be regarded as so great a soul winner as Keach had been. Neither was the church at any time so numerous under his ministry as under that of Keach. His method of address to sinners, in which for many years a large class of preachers followed him, was not likely to be largely useful. He cramped himself, and was therefore straitened where there was no scriptural reason for being so. He does not appear to have had the public spirit of Stinton, though he had a far larger share of influence in the churches, and was indeed a sort of archbishop over a certain section. The ordination discourses and funeral sermons which he preached must have amounted to a very large number. It seemed as if no particular Baptist minister could be properly inducted or interred without Dr. Gill's officiating. In the beginning of the year 1719, the church in Horsley Down invited him to preach with a view to the pastorate, and he was ordained March 22nd, 1720. Little did the friends dream what sort of man they had thus chosen to be their teacher. But, had they known it, they would have rejoiced that a man of such vast erudition, such indefatigable industry, such sound judgment, and such sterling honesty had come among them. He was to be more mighty with his pen than Keach, and to make a deeper impression upon his age, though perhaps with the tongue he was less powerful than his eminent predecessor. Early in his ministry, he had to take up the cudgels for Baptist views against a pedo-Baptist preacher of Rowell near Kettering, and he did so in a manner worthy of that eulogium which Toplady passed upon him in reference to other controversies, when he compared him to Marlborough, and declared that he never fought a battle without winning it. As a pastor, he presided over the flock with dignity and affection. In the course of his ministry, he had some weak, some unworthy, and some very wicked, that he was an affectionate friend and father too. He readily bore with their weaknesses, failings, and infirmities, and particularly when he saw they were sincerely on the Lord's side. In 1757, the church, under his care, erected a new meeting house for him in Carter Lane, St. Olave's Street, Southwark, near London Bridge, which he opened on October the 9th, preaching 2 sermons from Exodus chapter 20, verse 24. In the doctor's later years, the congregations were sparse, and the membership seriously declined. He was himself only able to preach once on the Sabbath, and living in a rural retreat in Camberwell, he could do but little in the way of overseeing the church. It was thought desirable that some younger minister should be found to act as co-pastor. To this the doctor gave a very decided answer in the negative, asserting that Christ gives pastors is certain, but that he gives co-pastors is not so certain. He even went the length of comparing a church with a co-pastor to a woman who should marry another man while her first husband lived, and call him co-husband. Great men are not always wise. However, by his stern repudiation of any division of his authority, the old gentleman held the reins of power till the age of 74, although the young people gradually dropped off, and the church barely numbered 150 members. Soon the venerable divine became too feeble for pulpit service, and confined himself to his study and the writing desk, and by he found that he must lie down to rest, for his day's work was done. He died, as he lived, in a calm, quiet manner, resting on that rich, sovereign grace which it had been his joy to preach. The last words that he was heard to speak were, "Oh, my Father, my Father!" He died at Camberwell, October the 14th, 1771, and was buried in Bunhill Fields. His eyesight had been preserved to him, so that he could read small print by candlelight, even to the last, and he never used glasses. His was a mind and frame of singular vigour, and he died before failing sight, either mental or physical, had rendered him unfit for service. In this, as highly favoured as he had been in most other respects. He was one of the most learned men that the Baptist denomination has ever produced. The great work, the exposition of the Old and New Testaments, is still held in the highest esteem, even by those whose sentiments widely differ from the author's. His body of divinity is also a masterly condensation of doctrinal and practical theology, and his cause of God and truth is highly esteemed by many. The system of theology with which many identify his name has chilled many churches to their very soul, for it has led them to omit the free invitations of the gospel and to deny that it is the duty of sinners to believe in Jesus. But for this, Dr. Gill must not be altogether held responsible, for a candid reader of his commentary will soon perceive in it expressions altogether out of accord with such a narrow system. And it is well known that when he was dealing with practical godliness, he was so bold in his utterances that the devotees of hyper-Calvinism could not endure him. "Well, sir," said one of these, "if I had not been told that it was the great Dr. Gill who preached, I should have said I heard an Arminian." The mighty commentator, having been followed to his grave by his attached church and a numerous company of ministers and Christian people, among whom he had been regarded as a great man and a prince in Israel, his church began to look around for a successor. This time, as in the case of Dr. Gill, there was trouble in store, for there was division of opinion. Some, no doubt, as true Gillites, looked only for a solid divine, sound in doctrine, who would supply the older saints with spiritual food, while another party had an eye to the growth of the church and to the securing to the flock the younger members of their families. They were agreed that they would write to Bristol for a probationer, and Mr. John Rippon was sent to them.